Good morning, everybody. Things are starting, they're inching lower here. Buyers are losing their confidence pretty quick. We had a pretty significant resistance area up here. And I don't have the pivot script on here, but we got a pivot here. Once it created that high, I mean, it was trending up. So initially, the thought was, well, maybe it can get up this 440 area, which would have been a significant resistance area, or maybe a little bit below. But this is a concept we call creating resistance. And the purpose behind that is we, as technical traders, we trade between areas called support and resistance. So once prices start to move, they bottom out as they did down here, the gap reversal last week. And now they start to retrace back up. All right, they'll move up toward a resistance area. Well, sometimes they don't. And one of the concepts or rules is, well, once it creates resistance, even if it's moving up, we have an area that wasn't there before. And so then kind of get through it. And, so as prices are trending up, as they were here, we say, okay, it can keep going there unless it violates this existing trend, which it did. And now you see how it's coming down. And when we get to SPX, a few seconds ago, I had to adjust the numbers because where prices were up here before, the strikes we were interested in were higher, and now they're not. But we'll get to that. So we all know what happened last week. There was this pretty rapid move to the downside, gap down that occurred, and then 3 days down, and then this gap down, which I think, just recently is kind of, I guess in the last few years, hasn't happened that often after getting 3 days down, because I can remember Dan and I always thinking, talking in the green room here and just saying, well, if that would gap down tomorrow, that would be like a no-brainer, set up an exhaustion type of gap. And until yesterday, I can't remember one actually working out that way. Maybe it did, but that was a relatively significant gap down and 3 days down, and then a wide range bar, and then it gaps down close to a major support area. Didn't quite get down there. And then, we got the chop for an hour and it rallied up, but was only able to penetrate into the red bar's closing price. So it wasn't able to retrace deeply into that prior range. So essentially, it went nowhere from Thursday to Friday on a closing basis. So it went down and then it closed there on Friday. And so downtrend. And now you see as it's coming down here, still up a little bit from Friday's close, but not where it was. And I titled things this morning, choppy range bound day ahead. I think so. No economic news, some important earnings, NVIDIA coming out on Wednesday, this meeting the Fed chair is going to be at, and whatever else is out there. So there isn't much for the market really to trade on today, news-wise. So I think it's just going to be technical things bouncing back and forth as traders here. Resistance, no confidence, comes back down. What's it going to do now? Well, it doesn't have much to stop it from going lower, as you can see. So we'll see what technical area the traders want to maybe step up and give it a shot to see where, maybe halfway into Friday's range, that maybe it wants to stabilize there. And again, chopping back and forth, I think, is what's in store for today. Saying in YouTube that maybe market wants to test last week's lows as confirmation of support and bring buyers if it gives a higher low. Well, sure. I mean, we have to see what develops at this point. After a move like this and this move down, and then the gap, somewhat of an exhaustion move. But there's been no slowing in momentum. It's trending down. It's at a support level. And now, buyers begin to feel a little more comfortable to buy in this area. 430 is going to be a significant level. So we'll see if it holds here. Now, what we'd be looking for is, as far as coming down again, would be if it makes a lower low, and now it begins to stabilize in this area. And it's going to take time, just like this topping area takes time. A bottoming area after a down move like that takes some time, where traders, institutions feel a bit more comfortable that the next leg down isn't going to happen. As prices are trending up, like here, V type of bottoms are more likely because buyers are confident, whereas prices are trending down here. Bears are more confident, and buyers are, I'm not so sure I want to step in front of this thing. So it takes a little backing and filling, and that's good. Sometimes it's a W bottom, sometimes it's a head and shoulders bottom, sometimes it's a downside shakeout. Whatever it's going to be, we'll see. And the good thing is that the weekly chart is still in an uptrend. It's coming down to support. And so as it comes down into this area, give or take, wherever it's going to take hold, we start to look for that kind of bottoming action, which could look like on the weekly chart, it could look something like this. It could be some kind of retest. We don't know. We just know that for now, this is a major support area, and we'll see how it takes hold here. How far does it retrace back up? Right now it was going up, and now look at the way it's coming down. It's still up from Friday's close a bit, but again, I don't think it's going very far today, because I just don't. It's down a whole bunch, relatively close to support. Even if it goes down to Friday's low, I don't think it's going to go much lower, and I don't think it's going to go much higher. So even if the range is, I don't know, for intraday, relatively wide, it's going to be, I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be very meaningful, other than just consolidating after a move down. Right? All right. Take a peek at the futures. As you can see, not very robust or confident move higher after being down so much in a bottoming tail bar into this prior pivot low. So really not getting much of a bounce. It couldn't even get relatively deep into this congestion here. And so now it's coming down, and you can see the support area down here. And I'm repeating, but because it went down as much as it did with the velocity that it did, I mean, even if it goes down into, last week's trading range, I guess what I'm really communicating here is don't get your expectations high up for something significant happening, to move up or to move down, even though in a 15, 20-minute period, it might seem kind of significant, but in the grand scheme of what's happened already, I don't think it's going to be very significant. So SPX, which I said I had to adjust things, and so these here are the strikes. They were higher, about 5 points higher earlier, so I had to adjust down. So I think the upside today at 44.20 is a no-brainer. Prices are down here. There's no news coming out, so what would drive it up there? I don't think anything. And 4,400, I don't think it's getting through that. And that was pretty significant that it fell through that level last week. It was a big open interest and puts and calls there, and on the move down. Now, the 43.25, I think that would hold today. But where prices are, well, they're up here. Will they get down there today? I think they could, but they're not going through that significantly. So 44.20, I think, is safe. Down here, it could be done as well, but let's just say it's less safe. And you still have a major support area right down there. So the odds of it, well, you don't even, I know from a put spread, you don't even want it to get down there because, then you're, like kind of like a white knuckle ride. Is it going to hold? Is it going to bounce up and so on? You don't want to be in that kind of situation with a credit spread. So, as confidently as I can say it, it isn't going up there today, with the disclaimer, right? Other markets, same thing, right? These led the way down. And, we're looking through all of the S&P ETFs, nothing was up last week. So it was a broad-based decline, but tech was down the least because it led the way down. So this coming down broke this pivot. It didn't even fill this gap yet. So, longs are maybe caught off guard, because everybody was pretty bullish as this thing moved up, and now it's violated the trend. Multiple pivots. This isn't at a major support level, and coming back, technical move back and forth today, and we'll see by tomorrow, Wednesday, whether any kind of upward momentum can come into here. How far does it get? And if it doesn't get very far, expectation is the next move will be down into this area here. And things are still dropping. So I don't know that those strikes that I just gave are gonna hold, but you just have to look at your options table and just make adjustments for it, give or take. It probably won't move very far from another 5 points or so. I was looking at 25 is still good for now. Upside, downside. What's the upside? 44.20, 44.15. All right. So there's no support here, little to no support. So, yes, Friday was just that exhaustion of a move, and it's not going up very much. So still pretty bearish. Still got this congestion over here that formed overnight. Not expecting very much. The Russell came down to this big support level, gave that all back. So this isn't a big support level. The downside should be limited. And, just the probability of any kind of significant downside today after a drop like this into support is low. So it leads me to thinking choppy range-bound trading today. The Dow. Okay, take a look at treasuries. The Dow was holding up here, big move down, same story, besides cutting through the 50. The 200, I think, is 100, I think, is a little bit lower. You can see the 20 MA there. That's where the 100 is. So just below Friday's bottoming tail bar, the 100 MA, it becomes a focal point. A lot of people looking at it, but if you look to the left, there's nothing there. There's just nothing there. But on the cash, let's see, swear it's right. I put in the letter as a reference point. It's right down there. You can see the cursor. And really, it can come into play. If there was any kind of a dip today below Friday's low, I just don't believe it's going much further than that. If it does, it'll probably spring right back up again. So knowing where that 100 MA is could be of use. Interest rates. We're going to look at, so this is obviously moving up, and as that moves up, the markets don't like it. So one of the things that I pointed out in the newsletter over the weekend was, even though we've got the internal sentiment is down through the lower band and we got breadth down here, this is just one part of what would lead us to thinking the market should stabilize and then begin to try and make a turn. However, the intermarket relationship part is not in alignment yet, meaning interest rates, which we talked about over the last couple of weeks when they came down here, that what happened in 2022, and they're moving up. So you got the 10-year moving up, the 30-year even moving up more aggressively. You can see it's taking out the high, and it's a new closing high. So those influences are still bearish. And we need to see interest rates start to pull back or stabilize, stop going up. Because now this, I believe what this is communicating is not the economy is getting too strong. I think it's more of a belief that inflation is not being tamed the way the markets would like it to, and a fear of the Fed raising interest rates some more. Because as these go up, well, what does that mean? Well, one of two things. There's either a high demand for money, which there's a less demand for money as interest rates are going up, unless the economy is very strong, or those that are lending believe that they need to get a higher interest rate because of inflation. And I see it as being the latter, which is bearish. And then as interest rates go up, equities become less attractive. Everybody knows you can now get 5% low risk in a bank. And so a lot of people start thinking, why do I need to go buy stocks? Oh, it's just the foundation of the way it is. Right? The dollar is just stabilized here, but it's a new closing high, and it's got this void up above. It doesn't mean it has to go up there. I'll come back to the conversation of creating resistance at some point, but it's a new closing high, and that's not good for equities. Gold stabilizing down here. That maybe you want to take an initial position, see if it begins to hold at that level. Silver's moving up. So just, support and resistance. Buyers look to the left, same old. And crude oil, inflation, right? Buyers stepped up at the prior high. Watch to see if that continues to go up. And everything's moving down. Transports, breaking through support. So we're in a little mini bear market right now. Weekly's still looking good. And now we just wait for things to, at one point, to settle down, and where they're going to settle down at. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, we have many bullish setups here. Got a bunch of alarms going off this morning, pre-market on our interest list. So I'll be focusing on those and opens. Although we don't have any opens actually. Started accumulating Friday. We just wanted to have a little patience, wait for follow through today. My alarm on this just went off, P4. This is a beautiful pattern. So here's an example of a gap reversal and a climactic buy setup. So that was very tradable. And then, just let the market and stock tell you when to get out. And obviously it retraced more with the broader market. But this is on my list because it's a W bottom, new low plus. And I only see one print up here at 64, so I don't trust it. But if it is opening at 24, then that's a beautiful setup for 10-minute high. Now, I usually say 5-minute high, but on Mondays, it's just been my experience there's more whipping around on Monday mornings because of the weekend. So 10-minute high, that looks fantastic. So I have that in the bottom right here. J and J I have in the middle chart here. This is the only Dow 30 loser. It's kind of a big old M top here, gap breakdown. So it had to have penny news, because 99% certainty, because the premiums were huge. So we're going to try to do a call spread on that. We're not going to get filled at what I wanted, what I posted. So I'll be watching that for a bounce to get into. I think it had something to do with there's been, I don't know, something or other with this K-View. I don't know if they're related, whatever. No, we did one options earnings trade. Now this one's too deep for me to call it a W bottom. You know, you want the reversal kind of near, even if it takes out the low, like I just showed you in P-Core. But this one's down a lot. It's a real company. We sold the 160s way the heck down here. And now we got a nice gap up. So I'm just bidding a penny to get out of mine. I mean, that's just common sense. It's earnings. Why on earth would you want to stick around for 5 more days to try to make a penny? You just, you know, you got rocks in your head if you think that way. All right, so that's that. RNW earnings gapping down, no pattern. There's very little earnings here, and then DM gapping up 294. All right, well, this one ain't bad. So this one's also, I don't call it a W bottom, but I call it a retest. So it was a nice gap from a buy setup, slopping around for 2 weeks. Bottoming tail, 50 MA, now gapping up as a void to about 310. I'm going to put that in a window. All right, I got a monster watch list. Let's just see how far we can get here in the next 7 minutes. I actually had this on a long watch list. This was a 1, 2, 3, 4 last week. I think I had an alarm at, I don't know, 38, whatever. And now that is getting whacked. Man. Look at that. It's gapping to a new yearly low. I'm going to put that in a window just because I want to see if it's an excessive gap, what buyers, you know, want to do. Yeah, Cops Thomas posted. Yeah, Cop. Yep, that's bullish. Kind of rectangle consolidation at the 20. All right, where do we start? P-Core, we just talked about. Cap, I set an alarm at 1470. It's a wide range closing breakout. Zulu Sierra, 141. On a pullback, could be a put spread idea. China, they lowered interest rates. They're trying to stimulate. Gapping down here. I know Shanghai was down over 1% overnight. You know, they got problems with their real estate, with deflation, with slowing economy. So that's a big mess right now. JetBlue. You know, we shorted Jets last week. Beautiful breakdown here. We bought puts on it, had a beautiful gain. And look at JetBlue. It's way underperforming the sector. This thing took out prior lows, but I set an alarm at 650. Because then that would be some, you know, not a textbook W, but another retest with a big old void. But I have zero interest unless it can get over Thursday's high. WBA got whacked last week with some of those health insurers and CVS. But you know, it's a real company. I'll watch it every day. RMAX, wow, RMAX had earnings light volume though. Look at that nasty downtrend. Yeah, it's just too light volume for me. There's a lot of climactic buy setups, and obviously climbos can occur in all trends, right? So I like the ones that a climo at the 50, like this. So that's in an uptrend, rising 50, rising 200. Like General Motors is a climo, but in a downtrend. but it's a major support with a price void. So that's on my list. There's P core again. AMEH, light volume, a little buy setup. I think that might have been on Sam's list. Nitra came in hard, but it's above the 2050-200. So I got an alarm on that at 53. XPEL, light volume, but little bull flag here. Nice little bull flag. Let me set an alarm on that other computer. XPEL. Alarm 8455. Oh, PII is another one. Climo with the 200. So these are tradable. You know, you just don't expect, we're just expecting the balance. We're traders. Could be 1 to 5 days. I don't know how high it's going to go. Payo alarm just went off. And that's kind of a bull flag. So that I like. I'm writing down all these alerts pre-market that are going off so I can watch them at the open. BWXT. The buy setup, minor support, 50 MA, I like. I think that was on Alex list. This is Alex list, PAA, my alarm just went off. So that's a nice wide range engulfing. ENR. Now, this had a big move off earnings, and it's going sideways. So I have an alarm at, I think, 34.90. Check. Yeah, there you go. See, 34.90. IAS, here's a Climo at the 200. I got an alarm at 14.20. Beaky, this one I would have put in the letter, but it has earnings, I think, tomorrow or Wednesday, whatever. But this is a beautiful pattern if it were to set up a 1, 2, 3. But over Friday's high could be a day trade. Bots is a Climo, but no potent reversal. Riven is a great pattern over Thursday's high. I see that it gapped up here. I'm going to set an alarm at 21.30. Look at that. I already had one at 21.25. Upstart. Pins up alarm just went off. So this is a potential start of a W bottom. But the problem is I don't have a potent reversal yet. Let's say that it gapped up. So I'm going to set an alarm at 33 now. And that's where I had an alarm. Pins alarm just went off. You know, kind of a retest of the 200. That'd be a put spread idea. AON alarm just went off. That's a put spread idea. So that's good to go. If you get filled, that is. And, you know, 9 out of 10 times you're going to have illiquid options at the open, but this is good to go. Click up alarm. Another Climo. That could be a day trade. I just personally don't. All right, I just got filled at a penny on my Pan W. So nice trade there. That's the only alarm I had all morning. Not alarm, order. 165. So actually, buy the 190s instead to hedge, and then we have a free put spread. So I should have waited. I had an order out already, so I'm out of mine. But this is the thing to do to get a free put spread. IAS, Climo here, this looks good. SMTC, low alarm. Look at bottom right, P-Core, XPEL. I'm gonna be really busy here on alarms.